You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Good evening, Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth, down in Houston, over in El Paso, and anywhere else, inside or outside the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening on this Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. We welcome you into the Chad Hasty Show, wherever you're listening and however you're listening to us. We appreciate you tuning in, and we've got quite a bit to talk about on the show today. Obviously, the big topic of the day: Kamala Harris has chosen her running mate, and I told you yesterday I had a feeling it was going to be Tim Walz, and it's Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Stan. He is the selection by Kamala Harris, and the news media. They're somewhere in between. Excited, muted excitement over Tim Walz. They're trying to present him, I've seen today, as America's uncle. America's, I guess you could say, weirdo, creepy uncle, I heard this, America's dad. Ew. Yeah. No, I really heard that today as it was described of Tim Walz, which, by the way, 71% of America has no idea who this guy is. They have no idea who this guy is, but he's got quite the lengthy record, quite a bit that we can get into. He's no moderate. Nancy Pelosi claims that he's a moderate. He's not a moderate, not anywhere close to being a moderate. Maybe at one time he was a moderate. Maybe years and years and years and years and decades ago, he considered himself a moderate, but not anymore. We'll talk about his record, what he has passed, what he has signed into law, what he has done and not done in the state of Minnesota, and how, this would be a horrible team in the White House if Kamala Harris is elected president. We will get into that today. Want to get your reaction as well throughout the day. You can text in at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Whenever you text in, give us your name. Let us know where you're listening from. That way we can give you the proper shout out, the proper acknowledgement whenever you text in. And you can, as always, you can get in touch with us on the phones at 1-800-687-0790. That's 1-800-687-0790. You can give us a shout and sound off on any of the things that you want to get into. Some of the other topics, we're not going to spend the entire show talking about Walz. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about him, but it's also 'tis the season, budget season for city governments. We'll get into some news stories there. Also, a possible bond election for the city of Lubbock. That's right. You ready to spend some money in the city of Lubbock? It's for streets. We'll tell you about that. We've also got the latest on the budget issues going on in Lubbock. Again, you ready to spend more money? And we'll also be getting into some other local news around the state. We've also got a new poll out that shows that 65% of teachers, 65% wanted to quit last year. We'll get into that. I think tomorrow we'll do our annual, hey, teachers, why did you want to quit? Why did you want to quit? Why have you left the profession? We will probably do that tomorrow on the program. We've also got other national news to get into and some statewide news as well. Again, we want to hear from you on the text line, 806-680-2790, on the phones as well, 1-800-687-0790. The first voice you hear from when you dial in today, he's just a guy getting ready for his birthday. That's Nick. Nick, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. In fact, I've been getting into something new. I've been trying something new. I know that's a dangerous thing to say.
It is.
Very risky. But recently, I have been doing sort of like a homemade air freshener. Okay? Now, it's
for
a few
for a second, I swear, if I was like, is he going to say homebrew? Is Nick into something cool?
Yeah.
Is this something that I didn't know about him?
This is still pretty cool.
Okay.
This is pretty cool.
Homemade air freshener.
That's right.
Let's go.
That's right. So it's you know you're making it right when halfway through you've literally created an apple cider recipe. What it is you get a pot, you get some water. I think, right? I don't want to lose you on this.
Uh-huh.
You get some pot and water.
Yeah, I'm writing all this down.
Okay, good. You boil the water.
Uh-huh.
And then as it's boiling,
yeah,
you put in you cut up an apple. You put an apple in there. You cut up an orange. You put the orange slices in the boiling water in the pot.
Sure.
You put a cinnamon stick.
Uh-huh.
Just one. You put one in there, and then that's it. And then you let it boil. And then once it reaches boil, you put it on simmer, and then you wait. And then it emanates.
Okay, so you're not talking about real air fresheners.
No.
You're just talking about
Scents.
That you could get either while cooking,
yes,
or during the fall when you just want a scent throughout the house. So you're not like, I thought you were making like actual like candles or something.
No, I'm not making, not yet. Maybe at some point.
Yeah. Nick's candles.
Yeah. All beeswax candles. No, this is I did this just last night. And I don't know, because it just smells like a fresh apple pie.
Yeah.
Like fresh out of the oven. And it's like all day. I woke up this morning and I could still smell it from when I was
that doesn't make you hungry or anything?
A little, but it's just it's such like a warm, cozy, warming feeling. It's
115 degrees outside.
Okay, but it's okay, fine. Homey. It's a homey
Like
scent.
I could see this as something that you may want to do when it's fall.
Or winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the summer,
you can make an apple pie anytime.
you can, yeah.
Yeah, just as you can smell cinnamon and apple.
Do you get bored at home and you just come up with these ideas? Never for the life of me. Like when I was, and I know you're engaged. You're engaged, and all that kind of stuff. So, but like when I was single, and like I never got to the point where I'm just like, wonder how I'm going to make the house smell good by going and boiling a lot of stuff. Yeah. I just got Febreze and walked throughout the house going, smells great. This is fantastic.
So I will say the reason that I decided to do this yesterday was, so my fiance has been gone for a while.
Yeah.
She's been in Dallas doing internships with the DA stuff.
Yeah.
Fancy stuff way over my head.
Right.
And so she's been gone for a while. She gets back today, actually. So last night, yesterday I was cleaning, doing the whole thing.
So you're doing some prep work.
Remove the bachelor pad aesthetic.
Gotcha.
And then I'm like, you know what? I think I want to make it smell a little.
Now it makes sense. Now you're bringing it home. Okay, now
that's
this,
my reason.
This makes sense now. I thought you were just bored.
Just for fun. I would do that though.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure I have.
Because we had some textures who were starting to ask some questions. What
do I do all day when I'm not?
Well, they were just Nick's Cincy. They were wondering what's the story here.
Yeah.
But now you're bringing it home.
Story.
The fiance is coming back,
and she's not a fan of. She doesn't like scented products.
Right.
So, like, she doesn't really like Febreze or Lysol or Clorox. She doesn't like the scent of, like, cleaning chemicals.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of natural, plant-based, unscented products in the house. But so this is one thing that it's very good because it's just, it's fruit
Sure.
and water and a cinnamon stick.
Yeah.
So
All right. Okay.
Very
Now
good.
that makes sense because
Yeah.
that'll make her happy.
it will.
It'll make the
Yep.
fiance happy. She'll
And
be
that's
like,
all that matters.
Exact. Clean
Right.
house.
I'm learning. Yeah.
The AC works. That was another big thing.
Yes, it was.
You got a haircut. You got the beard trim. I mean, you're.
I'm
I think
ready.
you're very excited.
I think I
that
am.
she's. When does she get back?
Well, she's driving back right now.
Okay.
She'll be back within the next, I think before the end of the show.
Okay, great.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So she's probably listening on her
Oh,
way.
yeah. She listens to the Chad Hasty show all the time.
Yeah,
so,
well, she should. Yeah.
Right, naturally.
Of course, yeah. Well, she's probably listening to you right now going,
Perhaps.
I can't wait. I can't. Now
Well,
the house
I've just
is
spoiled
going
it,
to
though.
smell. Well,
No.
you know.
So hopefully she's not listening because then it'll be a nice surprise.
Well, I think it'll be a surprise either way.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Let's text her. Got to get the smell of the hooker perfume out of there. You got to get that and the glitter. You got to make sure you get all the glitter out of the house. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Let's see. The sweater lives in fear of his wife to be, in fear of the wrestling ring. That from a texture. We'll just leave it at that. And let's see. Ruckus asking, yeah, he does like girls. Yes. Nick makes sense. Again, he's preparing the house for his fiance. So he's got to clean the place up a little bit. Now it all makes sense. So we've got all of that to get into on the program today. When we come back, oh yes, we will start getting into Kamala Harris's selection for VP. Hey, don't worry. One guy's socialist is another guy's neighborliness. That's all. According to Tim Walz. We'll be right back.
All of the changes you put me through. If I could go back again, well, I know I never let you go. Back with all my friends to that wonderful 65 love.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at kfyo.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton show. Now that Kamala has made her VP pick, we're officially off and running less than 90 days until the big election. Will there be debates? Will there be vice presidential debates? Plus, Buck.
Take a look at the latest out of the Middle East with Israel receiving incoming rocket fire and drones from Hezbollah. We'll look at the latest on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
Oh.
Gotta make a move to a town that's right for me. Town to keep me moving with some energy. Well, I talked about it, talked about it, talked about it, talked about it. Talked about moving.
All right, back on the Chad Hasty Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Right now, you've got Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on a stage in Philadelphia holding a joint rally. And Walz is it's always awkward when you have one of these where both candidates show up, and Walz is just kind of standing in the background going, "Yeah, I'm here." I'm hanging out, and Kamala's reading off the teleprompter, so I'm sure she's doing fine. reading off the teleprompter, as she likes to do that. She enjoys reading off the teleprompter. Tim Walz. Now, you've heard probably enough throughout the day about who he is, why she selected him, but I want to go through just some of the key things here about Tim Walz. And of course, we have quite a while to talk about all of his policies. But remember, the news media, the national news media, they're going to try and convince you and the American people that Tim Walz is some rural, Midwestern Democrat who is just right down the middle. He's an old school Democrat, not too far to the left. He's someone who's in line with America's values. Now, this is a guy who also put mandatory tampons in all the boys' restrooms in schools in Minnesota. So again, I don't, when it comes down to your, rural ethics and rural sensibilities, I'm not sure if that's in line with them or not. Especially when you look at the left and the right, I'm pretty sure that's a leftist tendency. Not sure why boys in high school need access to tampons, but it shows you down what road Tim Walz is going on. The Washington Post, where Tim Walz stands on key issues, including abortion, climate, marijuana, and more. Of course, they're already highlighting that he was a school teacher. Oh, he was a school teacher a long time ago. He was first elected into Congress in 2006. He is at this point, he is a professional politician. This idea that, we're going to have a school teacher in the White House. Yeah, I've seen that. Just stop it. So here you go. Here's your middle of the road Democrat, according to the news media. On climate change, he passed a law, signed it into law in 2023 that Minnesota must move to 100% clean energy by 2040. In July, the EPA awarded Minnesota a $200 million grant to reduce emissions by restoring peatland and supporting electric-powered vehicles and reducing food waste. The EPA, in its announcement, thanked Walz for his leadership and innovative plans. He's been a long climate change champion and often praised for being well-spoken on the issue of tackling climate change. The Sierra Club, no fans of conservatives, the executive director wrote Tuesday that he was glad to see Walz join the Democrat ticket. Quote, he has worked to protect clean air, water, and grow our clean energy economy to see that we can do it all the way to avoid the worst of the climate crisis. When it comes to public safety, he passed police legislation 2 months after the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis and the ensuing wave of global protest over racial inequality. Now, let's put this in real terms here. George Floyd and the protest that happened afterwards, this guy did nothing to stop the protest. This guy stood by and watched as Minneapolis burned to the ground. He didn't stop it. In fact, they did an interview with his wife, the news media, where she said she could smell the tires burning, and she kept the windows to the house open so that way it was their way of standing with the protesters so they could smell the burning tires. Walz signed the Minnesota Police Accountability Act, which bans police chokeholds and neck restraints, along with, quote, warrior-style training for officers, while also increasing data collection of fatal police incidents. During the COVID pandemic, Walz created a mask mandate and even a hotline to report people who weren't social distancing. That's right, you could be a narc. If your neighbors weren't social distancing, you could call the government and turn them in. That's right. you could turn in your neighbors who weren't social distancing. They prompted lawsuits claiming he was overstepping the issue of whether Walz had the authority to institute a mask mandate and other pandemic protections has been battled in the state's appeals court and Minnesota's Supreme Court. Walz also once carried an A rating from the NRA, but now supports calls for stricter gun control. He said in 2018, the school shooting in Parkland changed his stance on guns, with his daughter urging him to take action. In May of 2023, he signed a bill into law that included universal background checks and a red flag law, two gun control measures opposed by the NRA. Walz says he supports a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers. He also said that he is against the border wall. He signed a bill that allows any eligible person, regardless of immigration status, to receive a Minnesota driver's license. Signed a bill into law that legalized recreational marijuana for adults, taxing it at 10%. When we come back, we'll have a little bit more on Tim Walz, including where he stands on abortion and gender issues. We'll be right back.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
On the road with Mr. Rhodes.
I see a lot of things on the road that make me wonder. Like someone in a cow costume selling beef jerky? I mean, if I were a cow, would I be selling beef? And one thing I've got to beef with is pedestrians not using intersections and crosswalks. Those horizontal stripes keep you from ending up horizontal. Cross only when the signal says walk. And always look left, right, left. That's a key to staying safe on foot. And that makes Mr. Rhodes very happy.
Be safe, walk smart. A message from TxDOT.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. You're listening to The Chad Hasty Show.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there today. 806-680-2790. You can text in and sound off on any of the topics that we get into today. David in Wichita Falls weighing in on Tim Walz. Neighborliness is voluntary. Socialism is mandatory. Does Tim Walz not see the difference? Well, the guy's a socialist. He wants to make socialism sound nice. Remember, when socialists go out there and try to make it sound nice, it's because they want it to be more appetizing for everybody. Okay? They want everyone to embrace it. They can't just tell you we're going to force you to do this. Gordo weighed in on Walz. He abandoned his National Guard unit upon notification of Iraq deployment, lied about the timing of his retirement before his unit deployed. He was put on blast by a retired Command Sergeant's Major of Minnesota National Guard. He's unfit. That from Gordo weighing in on the text line. Walz also on DEI said this fairly recently: equity and inclusion remain top priorities of our administration. While we made significant strides towards a more equitable and inclusive Minnesota, our work is not finished. Walz has, on the issue of abortion, and as the Washington Post puts it, a gender-affirming care. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June of 2022, Walz signed a bill protecting abortion as a state law January of 2023, making the state a hub for the procedure in the Midwest. In March, Kamala Harris visited a Planned Parenthood health center that provides abortions. I guess that's one of their campaign stops. In April of 2023, Walz signed the Trans Refuge Bill that shields people seeking and providing gender-affirming care in Minnesota. That same day, he also approved a bill banning conversion therapy. Well, we're putting up a firewall to ensure that Minnesotans have the freedom to make their own health care decisions. I mean, this guy is far left. There is nothing down the middle about this guy at all. He is a far, far left progressive, just like Kamala Harris. Now, remember the other guy who was in this thing was Shapiro out of Pennsylvania. But you know what his main issue was? He's Jewish. And the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party, they did not. They didn't want him in there. You can't have someone who's Jewish on the ticket. That's just not going to work. And the Democrats want to have a nice little convention here in a couple of weeks where there's no major protest. If they would have picked Shapiro, you better believe they would have had protesters. You would have had the pro-Hamas protesters out there. So, again, they're going to try to portray him as an all shucks, right down the middle Democrat. He's not. He is very, 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 very far left. Which really shouldn't surprise anyone. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Let's see, one report. The hotline set up by Tim Walz's administration to monitor compliance with his 2020 stay-at-home order generated thousands of reports to Minnesota or from Minnesotans who snitched on their neighbors for things like playing basketball in a park, walking dogs, and even throwing small children's parties. The hotline was launched in March of 2020, and law enforcement continued to monitor it until November, well after the stay-at-home order ended. In October of 2020, it was used to alert authorities to a church service that didn't fit with the governor's, quote, legal requirements. This type of complaint was not uncommon. Now, he's somebody who also honors George Floyd and stands by the BLM movement. He is someone who embraces this. When Minneapolis became the first major U.S. city to broadcast the Islamic call to prayer 5 times per day, he was just giddy about that. Again, when you're looking for a far leftist candidate, this is him. I mean, Kamala Harris is very excited. So, let's see, another tweet that came in. When talking about his 87-year-old mother back in 2020, he said that his 87-year-old mother had heart surgery. We isolated her, so she's alone. We're dropping groceries off at the door. His COVID response was heavily criticized. I guess you're proud just to drop off groceries at the door after your 87-year-old mother has heart surgery, and you're like, all right, Mom, why don't you hike over to the front door, pick up those groceries, take them back inside. We're not gonna get inside. We're not gonna do anything. 806-680-2790. Let's see. Jim in Oklahoma. Mr. Hasty, be glad that you'll have Harris as a boogie woman to rant to your listeners about for the next 9 years. GOP Trump is over. Prepare for a complete wipeout in November. Goodbye, MAGA. You're going to hear the energy in the Philly crowd. JD will get trounced in the debates as Walz and Trump too scared to actually debate Harris. You see him fleeing to Fox News. That from Lil Jim in Oklahoma, who doesn't want to call in. But Jim, that's fine. That's fine. You can have fun with that feeling if you want to. I'm sure, I guess you're very happy with the state of the nation, the way it is now, with horrible economy, horrible wars going on around the world. It's very odd that you're excited about that. Very odd that, you don't care about your vote counting for Joe Biden, that the Democrats just didn't care about your vote. That's very odd. But, hey, you do you, man. And enjoy your time in Oklahoma. 806-680-2790. Another texter, I don't understand. The guy's an old white man. Why is he such a liberal? You would think that he'd be a Republican. I mean, that's what the Democrats always say. He's an old white man. Personally, I got to say this. Some people should be offended out there that the Democrats chose an old white man for the ticket. I mean, you had a young gay man right there. Right there. You had a young gay man that the LGBT crowd would have loved. And the Democrats said, no, thank you. And the Democrats, once again, just going with the old white guy on the ticket. They can't get away from it. See, Textro was in Minneapolis for the Final Four when Tech played there. It was more liberal than Austin. A ton of Muslims. I thought I was in the Middle East. Another texter weighed in. Tim Walz is an absolute disaster. Great pick for the Republicans. I was worried that they would actually choose someone who would do some damage. Well, he would do damage if elected. That's true. But yeah, I was thinking. I was a little bit worried they'd go with Shapiro. But Eric Holder and Kamala Harris, they just couldn't help themselves to get a pro-BLM ticket out there, pro-socialist, pro-communist ticket out there. Oh, they just couldn't help themselves to do it. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and more.
With a little love and some tenderness, we'll walk upon the water.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home. Weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton show. Now that Kamala has made her VP pick, we're officially off and running less than 90 days until the big election. Will there be debates? Will there be vice presidential debates? Plus, Buck.
Take a look at the latest out of the Middle East with Israel receiving incoming rocket fire and drones from Hezbollah. We'll look at the latest on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
Hasty Show. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful evening. 806-680-2790. One texter. Hey, Jim in Oklahoma, I'm sending Trump some money right now. Let's see. I like it when the Democrats text in. The Jim in Oklahoma, which, by the way, I'm going to give him credit because he's never used his name before. I think I'm right on that one. Let me see here. No, he's never used his name before. So I give Jim some credit. He finally used his name. He texts in just every now and then. He'll text in, but he never calls us for whatever reason. They get into a back and forth. He does his little drive-by, and that's it. So I don't know. Maybe in a few months, he's an every few months type of texture. Every couple of months, he'll text in and let us know how much he hates Trump and loves the state of the nation that we're in. Let's see. You can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. Coming up in the next hour, we'll get into some of the local issues, including this new bond election in Lubbock, a street bond election. We'll get into that, as this will be something that will be on, most likely be on your ballots coming up in November for those of you in the city of Lubbock. So we'll be getting into that coming up in the next hour of the program. We've also got some other big news, other news from around the state that we'll get into. A story that I want to hear from teachers tomorrow on, so we'll save the bulk of it for tomorrow. But a article, this came out from WFAA, where 65% of teachers in Texas said they wanted to quit last year. One texter sent in and said they consider that a low number. But think about that, because tomorrow I want to hear from teachers, retired teachers, former teachers. We did this last year. And I want to hear again from the retired teachers and former teachers on why they left the profession. Why did you leave the profession? We're going to do that tomorrow. So, be sure to give us a call tomorrow on that issue, because it's always fascinating to hear from people who left the teaching profession as to why they left, because you hear so much in the news media about the supposed reason why teachers leave. And one of the reasons they list in this article is that lawmakers don't like them. They say they just don't feel liked by lawmakers, and that really drags them down. I doubt seriously that is on the top of mind for a lot of teachers, is how the state lawmakers feel about them. So again, we'll get into that pretty deep tomorrow, and see what the retired and the teacher. If you quit, why did you quit? We'll hear from teachers tomorrow on that. Texture, you're right. The words progressive and socialist have nicer, softer sound than Marxist and communist. And the countries that are full-blown communists started out as progressive socialist, all for the good of the people. Yeah, and they never told anybody that, hey, we're going to control. We're going to control everything you do. We're going to put you in re-education camps. We're going to beat you if you get out of line and try to speak out against the government. That's never sold to people. That's not. You never have a government that's going from maybe a democracy or having a little bit of freedom. They never say, well, we want to take away all your rights so that way we could lock you up and you can put our thumb right on top of you. You never hear that from government officials. It's all, well, this is to protect you. We're going to do everything we can do to protect. You can count on the government to protect you. Just give up your guns, give up your freedoms, and we, the government, we will provide everything for you. You don't have to worry about anything. Bill, North Carolina, says we should thank Harris for her VP pick and highlights what she is and should be easy to show Americans what she wants. Trump is probably very happy with her choice. Oh, if I'm Trump, I'm ecstatic. If I'm Trump, I'm ecstatic about the pick. If I'm if I'm in charge of the RNC, I'm ecstatic about the pick. Thank goodness she went with this guy. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and much more.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.
For you.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is The Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. 806-680-2790. You can also call in at 1-800-687-0790. I know I said we'd move on to the local stuff, but I've got one more thing here on this Tim Walz guy. I'm telling you, a lot more information is going to be coming out. We're going to have a lot of days where we talk about this this ticket. But let me ask you a question. If Donald Trump, let's just say, if Donald Trump, back when he was running for president, and whether it be his first go around or when he was running for re-election, whatever, if Donald Trump had spent numerous years in Russia and praised Russia for how great it is, and honeymooned in Russia, do you think that the liberal press would go a little crazy? Tim Walz, when he was a teacher, this is a while back, but he is a huge fan of China. He's a big fan of China. Walz taught in China around the same time of the 1989 Tiananmen Square unrest before moving to Minnesota with his wife in the mid-90s. The New York Post, they go a little bit in depth here on Walz's connections to China. He's basically fawned over the communist dictatorship. The Democrat VP has fawned over his time living in China, saying he'll never be treated as well as he was in the communist country, and hailing the repressive regime's lack of crime. The Minnesota governor spent 1989 to 1990 teaching school in China as part of the World Teach program based out of Harvard University. He was one of the first Americans accepted into the program, according to the Star Herald. Quote, no matter how long I live, I will never be treated that well again. Walz, who was 60, recounted back in 1990 after teaching American history, culture, English in southern China. They gave me more gifts than I could bring home. It was an excellent experience, stressing that he was treated exceptionally well. There was no anti-American feeling whatsoever. America is it in the eyes of the Chinese. Many of the students want to come to America to study. He went on to give it a glowing review. Said that there's almost no crime and that he never once felt threatened. He and his wife also honeymooned in China. He also traveled to Tiananmen Square, the site of the 1989 protest massacre, he says. He insisted the Chinese people would have no limits to what they could accomplish if they have the proper leadership. Quote, they're such kind, generous, capable people. They just gave and gave and gave to me. Going there was one of the best things I've ever done. Walz and his wife, Gwen Whipple, went on to work in the China exchange programs with Beijing in 1994, providing 7 high school students in Nebraska help with traveling to China and adapting to Chinese culture. The governor has since traveled to China extensively with his wife, continued to speak positively about the country, and said the U.S. should not view China as an adversary. When I lived in China, as I've said, I've been there about 30 times. I don't fall into the category that China necessarily needs to be an adversarial relationship. I totally disagree. The governor said in an interview that he wants to trade with China, but he also wants the country to adhere to environmental, fair trade, and human rights agreements. J.D. Vance telling reporters this is a guy who has proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, wants to make America more reliant on garbage energy instead of American energy, and proposed defunding the police. Guy loves China. Doesn't view them as an adversary. They are an adversary of the United States. Whose side are you on? You know, this is this loving embrace of China. This is going to be something to watch during this election. I'm sure it'll come up a few different times. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can weigh in on any of the issues that we've been getting into. Let's see, some text messages that have come in. More stupid than the Harris Walz ticket, as there are people who will vote for them. Oh, there are going to be a lot of people, of course. A lot of people are going to vote for Harris. Absolutely. Switching gears, let's see, proposed tax rate for the city of Lubbock fully funds the Godeke Library, proposes a Band-Aid fix for the Clapp Pool. The proposed city budget, this out of the LubbockLights.com website. And James Clark writing over there. The proposed city budget presented Monday becomes the city budget. The property taxes will go up $47 per year for the average home. The Godeke Library will be fine, and Clapp Park will get a temporary Band-Aid. Patching the pool for $325,000 comes with a warning from the city manager, Jared Atkinson. Lubbock recently opened 3 splash pads, but has municipal pools all closed due to age and malfunction. Only Clapp has any hope for revival. Quote, I personally don't have confidence that you'll keep the pool open for very long if we do this, Atkinson said. The equipment at Clapp cannot be fixed. Or can be fixed, That's not the problem. The pool was constructed in two halves with a joint in the middle, and it failed. The pool loses water. It's been losing water. We have no way to say that this is a good use of tax dollars because that joint could last for several years or it could last for none. We could basically be putting out there, pumping water into it as fast as it's coming out. A new Lubbock pool would cost at least $8 million, according to Kaylee Robinson, Park Development Superintendent. Godeke Library became controversial after Adam Hernandez, a community activist, former mayoral candidate, claimed that it would be forced to close if the council refused to renew the lease. The proposed budget includes enough money to cover a more expensive lease for the Godeke Library. Even though the tax rate is proposed to go down, homeowners on average will end up paying more because of increasing valuations for the Lubbock County Appraisal District. Lubbock Mayor Mark McBrayer, Councilman David Glasheen both expressed an interest in the no new revenue rate during the July 18th council meeting, but early on, that's not what Atkinson has proposed. So again, you'd be paying more in taxes if this proposed budget actually is the one that's proposed. The higher tax appraisals would have cost the average homeowner more than $53 in the coming year, but lowering the rate brings it back down to $47. The tax bill just for the city, not including the county schools and local governments, will be a little more than $1,000. McBrayer on record saying that, quote, I recently read the burden on homeowners, which includes mortgages, insurance, property taxes at the highest level since 1984. I don't believe we can continue to put that on our citizens, at least our average citizen, a heavier tax burden until that situation is changed. If the council pushed for a no new revenue rate, it would drop the tax by more than a penny, and every penny represents $2.3 million of city revenue. The proposed budget just short of $943 million, a decrease of more than 3%. Most of the decrease is from Lubbock Power and Light, acting only as a distribution system and not purchasing power for its customer base. So the preliminary budget is setting aside $4.4 million for libraries. That's an increase of over 1%. The lease for the Godeke Library is going up more than $12,000, according to public records. Right after Atkinson revealed his plan to fund the lease, Councilman Tim Collins asked him to repeat for clarification. Quote, you said it, but I wanted it to be very clear. You've budgeted a renewal for the Godeke branch. The 2019 lease agreement cost the city over $123,600 for the first 3 years and $148,320 for the last 2 years. Again, how much would it cost if you were to build a building? How much would it cost you at the end of the day? And how many people are going to the Godeke Library branch? And at one time it was a popular branch. How many people are still going? Is it worth the money? Or are we just, getting Facebook pressure from people and that's weighing on the council? (806-680-2790). None of the council members spoke against Godeke either Monday or during a council meeting on July 18th. There was talk of holding the line on property tax revenue, making public safety the highest priority. So that's where we are when it comes to the budget for the city of Lubbock. Those of you in Lubbock, they'll continue to hold meetings on this. They haven't approved anything just yet. 806-680-2790. When we come back, a bond election may also be proposed for the city of Lubbock. Talk about that when we return.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at kfyo.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton show. Now that Kamala has made her VP pick, we're officially off and running less than 90 days until the big election. Will there be debates? Will there be vice presidential debates? Plus, Buck.
Take a look at the latest out of the Middle East with Israel receiving incoming rocket fire and drones from Hezbollah. We'll look at the latest on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. Talked about the budget or the budget proposal for the city of Lubbock. Now this, a proposed bond election. This is also from Lubbock Lights. Broadway's once protected historic bricks may be kicked to the curb if a committee's recommendation is accepted on a proposed road bond expected on the November ballot. The bond is at $110 million, down from what could have been a $163 million bond election. A Citizens Advisory Committee will present the idea tomorrow to the City Council. The committee thinks the actual cost is just $100 million, but added $10 million for inflation over 5 years. The biggest item is a controversial $16 million recommendation for Broadway from Avenue Q to Avenue E. So the city needs to ditch the bricks on Broadway from Q to E. Driving lanes should be concrete, the committee said. The intersections should be brick pavers, materials that look like bricks, often made from clay or dyed concrete. Quote, all historic brick removed from Broadway should be cleaned, stored, and given to the city of Lubbock for a future application, potentially a segment from University to Avenue Q, the committee said. The committee's started with a leftover projects from the 2022 bond discussion, a $200 million bond passed that year, but plenty was left out. Current proposal both dropped and added items. For example, Broadway from Q to University is not on the list, but Alcove Avenue from 50th to 66th is on the list. So they have about $16 million set aside from Broadway to Avenue Q to Avenue E. University Avenue from 50th Street to the South Loop, $7.1 million. Upland Avenue from 98th Street to 114th Street at $15.6 million. 34th Street from Upland Avenue to Alcove Avenue, $13.6 million. 146th Street from University Avenue to Avenue P, $14.6 million. Quaker Avenue from 4th to 19th Street at $3.1 million. Boy, won't that be a headache when they start doing that. Ooh. Let's see, 146th Street from Quaker, from Slide Road to Quaker Avenue at $15.3 million. Avenue P from 130th Street to 146th Street at $11.2 million. Alcove Avenue from 50th Street to 66 at $1.5 million. And South Overton rebuild streets at $2 million. The committee's recommendations, quote, priority growth-driven projects identified with safety in mind. School traffic was also mentioned. Other items included the city should increase money for street maintenance, should complete utility line replacements below Broadway, and have a regular cycle of bond elections for roadway projects. It's good. Things just it get more expensive. Say city should also annex certain areas along priority corridors. Quaker Avenue south of 146th Street, University Avenue south of 130th Street, and 146th Street between Indiana and University. The committee also thought a privately funded political action committee is a good idea for promoting the bond. The plan is a single proposition on the ballot, not splitting it up into separate items. So you either get it all or you get none. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how people will go on this. I mean, I'm not trying to say that none of this is needed. When you look at all the spending that's going on, and when you think of the economy right now where it is, and people are really wanting to hold on to as much money as possible, boy, I don't know. When you talk about that, they don't say in this article, they said they don't have any information about how much this would raise taxes. But taxes would go up. And this isn't the last bond that they're going to come up with. They're going to come up with other, future bond elections to take care of other roads. I mean, this is just going to keep going and going and going and going. So this is possibly going to be on your November ballot for those of you in the city of Lubbock. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auctions were down, reporting prices $2 to $10 lower. Cattle futures were mixed. August live cattle futures up 42 cents to close at 181.98. August feeder cattle futures down $1, close at 243 a hundredweight. October cotton futures down, close at 66.20. September wheat futures up a penny, closing at 5.61 a bushel. September corn down 2 cents to close at 3.89, and August soybean futures down 16 cents, close at $10.28 a bushel. August soybean meal futures down $13, close at $347.70 per ton. August class 3 milk futures up 19 cents. Close at $20.39 a hundred. September crude oil futures down 31 cents, close at 73.11 per barrel, and the Dow Jones was up today, 296 points, close at 38,999. And that's Market Roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. So.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. You're listening to The Chad Hasty Show.
Back on the Chad Hasty Show. Let's see. Ty weighing in on the text line. Did we not just vote on a crazy expensive road bond in the last year? That was back in 2022. 2022 is when the $200 million bond election was passed and included 17 different road projects. And it passed quite easily. It was a real easy victory for the bond. I think about 68%, if I'm right about that, 68% of people voted for the bond. So that was back in 2022. And remember, in one of the recommendations here is to have a consistent cycle of these bond elections until you get caught up. And look, this is something that the city has talked about often, is that they've been behind on maintenance, on street repairs. And you hear a lot of people complain in the city of Lubbock about streets and about how streets need to be redone, and this is how they intend on going. Yeah, here you go, a regular cycle of bond elections for roadway projects, and this is an all or nothing election, so you can't dial it back any. It's you either. You either get one, you either get it all or nothing else. That's it. They will not be divided into different parts. Let's see, another text coming in. Lubbock Police Department is so short-handed, and we're working mandatory overtime to cover shifts. Council was proposed a 19% raise to get us competitive with other cities so we can fill our ranks. They just came back and are looking at a 4% cost of living for all employees, once again ignoring public safety. And then another text. Chad, you're spot on. All this misinformation and confusion brought on from social media. Adam Hernandez, typical liberal. He's mad and his liberal ideologies were rejected, and now he's made it his mission to be a pain in the side of the current council. Unfortunately, most of the people on social media do not actually live in Lubbock. They're also calling and being annoying to the city council. It's all smoke and mirrors. Liberals love to feed off of lies and confusion. And, Adam Hernandez, he's been out on social media saying, oh, the council's going to close all the libraries. Oh, the council's going to close all the parks. Oh, the council's going to, evil Mark McBrayer is going to close everything. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just throwing stuff out there and hoping that something will stick. I'll tell you right now, it makes no sense whatsoever. I was going to make some people mad. It makes no sense whatsoever to drop $325,000 on the clap pool when you have no idea if it's going to work. You have no idea. You have no clue if it's going to retain water or for how long it's going to retain water. But they're so scared of the social media gang. Don't be scared of them. It's amazing that the children made it through the summer without a pool. Can you believe it? It's amazing. The children in Lubbock, Texas, somehow made it through a summer without a pool. They made it the majority of the summer without even a splash pad. The splash pads didn't even open up until sometime in July. But it's amazing. The children made it through. I don't know how. I don't know how it happened. But the children were able to survive a summer without a city pool. Don't waste money on clap. If you don't think, or if you even have a question whether or not it's going to work, don't waste money on the clap pool. Save the money, do something else with it. I don't know. Put the money towards a future water park, which has been talked about. I don't think they're done having that discussion for the future, a future bond election about a indoor-outdoor water facility. You know, that'll be coming up at some point. But if you can use the money for the clap pool in a different area, I say do that. Put it towards police. I know it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but put it towards public safety. Go to hire a couple more officers. But yeah, I would not waste. I'll put it this way. If this were your personal budget, would you spend money filling a pool if you had no idea if it was going to hold water or not? If you had no idea if the pool was going to work, if it was going to retain water, and you had to drop a lot of money to fill the pool and keep it filled, would you do it? Again, it's taxpayer money. Don't waste the taxpayers' money. And I know there's going to be people on social media who whine and cry about it, but guess what? There are going to be people on social media who whine and cry about a lot. They may even show up to a meeting or two. But eventually they'll get over it. Eventually they'll move on to the next outrage of the day. Another texture, since when did it become the city's responsibility to fund city pools? Well, once the city, here's one of the big points about government handouts. Okay, it's a great example on a very small level of a government handout. Once they give it out, once they start the program, it is viewed as a responsibility. It is viewed as a must-have item. If the government gives it to you, if the government even hands out a little bit, then it's going to be viewed as an absolute must-have for the rest of the government's life. People aren't going to want to give it up. People are not going to want to give up a quote-unquote free pool. Even if they never send their kid to the pool, they'll complain about it on social media. Even if the adult never steps foot in the pool, they just send their kid there to be a babysitter, they'll complain about it on social media because, well, they want a babysitter. And make no mistake, there are a lot of people who send their kids to public pools because it's a babysitter. And so when did it become the city's responsibility to fund city pools? When they first started funding city pools. That's when it became their responsibility. That's when they took on that responsibility long ago. That's why we've said if you once you start giving out these handouts, whether it's on the local level, state level, federal level, once you start giving out handouts, you never get that money back. You never can take it away because people become addicted to it. And then they'll look around and go, well, other cities have it. Other cities have pools and they have splash pads and there's some cities have indoor-outdoor water facilities. Lubbock's boring. Lubbock sucks. I'm gonna post on social media, LubbockSucks.com. I don't like it. It's boring. That's how people act. That's how people act. And when you have politicians who want to make people happy, they're going to start listening. Not every single one of them, but they listen to that stuff. And, you've got this idea. Well, now we're going to throw water into a pool that we don't even know if it can hold it. Again, don't just put a Band-Aid on it. If you're convinced that the pool is not going to hold water, or that if it's still broken, don't deal with it. Say we're done, or say, you know what? In a few years, we'll build a new pool. We'll go to the voters and see if they want to build a new pool. But you know what? We're out of the pool business for the next few years. If you're just dead set on bringing back a pool, you can announce that too. But don't waste everybody's time and money with a Band-Aid. 806-680-2790. Because I can tell you what will happen. If they start putting water into this pool at Clapp Park and it starts leaking and they can't fix it, you're just going to piss people off again when you reclose it. And they'll be even more upset that he didn't actually fix it in the first place. So I say move on. Let everybody have fun in the splash pads. 806-680-2790. When we come back, can't believe it's already the end of the show. Things moved quick today. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Wednesday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton show. Now that Kamala has made her VP pick, we're officially off and running less than 90 days until the big election. Will there be debates? Will there be vice presidential debates? Plus, Buck.
Take a look at the latest out of the Middle East, with Israel receiving incoming rocket fire and drones from Hezbollah. We'll look at the latest on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, tomorrow morning at 11.
All right, back on the Chad Hasty Show as we begin to wrap things up. J.D. Vance ripping the media today, scolding reporters to get Kamala Harris to answer questions. This out of Fox News. Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance scolded reporters to do a better job of pressing Kamala Harris to answer questions about her record, saying she was taking a basement strategy, speaking to a press gaggle on his plane ahead of the rally in Philadelphia. The Ohio senator took a question about former President Trump not appearing on the campaign trail until Friday, saying he and Trump take a divide and conquer approach. But he turned around the question on Harris, who hasn't set for a formal interview or a press conference for 16 days, and she ascended as a Democrat nominee. Well, one final observation, he said. I know most of you. I like all of you as people, or at least I like the ones I know. I think you guys have to do a better job of actually forcing Kamala Harris to answer questions. This is a person who has been the presumptive Democrat nominee for 16 days. She hasn't taken a real single question from a reporter. The American people deserve to get to know the people who want to lead them. I think it's shameful for Kamala Harris, but increasingly for the media, that she's taking a basement strategy of running from reporters instead of getting in front of them and answering tough questions about her record and letting the American people know who she is. Vance said he and Trump both take hostile questions and non-hostile ones because they respect the American people. Vance told reporters that he had called Tim Walz, who accepted Harris's offer to be his running mate Tuesday, Vance left a message to congratulate him on being selected, and he said he looked forward to a, quote, robust conversation. Now, Vance is right. The news media has not pressed Kamala Harris, but they won't press Kamala Harris. They know how bad she is. This is the same media that lied to everyone about Joe Biden. They know who Kamala Harris is. She didn't spring up out of nowhere. They know exactly how bad she is when answering questions. They can't act as quote unquote journalists. They have to prop her up. They have to lie to everyone about who she is. Because the news media, they don't want Trump. They absolutely do not want Trump in there. They want Kamala Harris in there, and they're going to do anything they can do to get Kamala Harris. And one of the things they can do is protect her from herself, and that's by, well, not pressing too hard to answer any questions. Eventually she'll have to. You would think. Eventually she would have to answer some questions. You know, if I'm Trump, I'm accepting every kind of debate I can with Kamala Harris because she's not, when it comes to being off teleprompter, she's not good. So I'm looking forward to whenever they find an agreement for this presidential debate. I am looking forward to that. All right, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You can follow me on social media at Chad HD Radio. Don't forget, you can listen to the podcast, subscribe, and follow wherever you get your podcast from. Tomorrow, we'll talk to the teachers out there, find out why you left the profession. We'll get to that tomorrow on the show. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless you all. See you back here tomorrow at 5 p.m.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.